everyone. My name is Asif, and I lead Salesforce practice at Royal Cyber. I welcome you all in today's podcast on behalf of Royal Cyber and Salesforce. Uh, we are privileged to host, one of the senior product marketing managers from Salesforce, Natalia Pavic. Thank you for joining us, Nat. To be the part of this podcast.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here, and just working with you guys has been wonderful. So thank you for everything you do for Salesforce and our customers.
Excellent, excellent. And I'm also joined by two of my, Royal Cyber technical folks, Iftikhar Khan, who's our Salesforce B2C commerce architect, and Foha Khalid, who is Salesforce B2C commerce tech lead. Um, all right. So, as part of today's podcast, we are going to discuss and touch base on Salesforce B2C composable commerce. This is the topic which we've experienced in Dreamforce and connections. That's where we are getting more traction. That's where customers who are on Salesforce B2C commerce, SiteGen or SFRA, they would like to know more on Salesforce B2C composable commerce. To start with Iftikhar and Fuha, you guys, we have talked about it before as well, but just to start this and to set the expectations, set the context. How do you guys see the difference between the headless and composable? Number one. Number two is when it comes to Salesforce offerings, what is the role of the PWA kit storefront as part of the composable commerce offerings?
Okay, I think so far we have talked a lot about the comparison between composable and the headless. So when we talk about the headless, so headless is just about decoupling uh, storefront from the backend. So in between, there are APIs which talk. So we are very open from the front end perspective. So we can implement the front end, the technology we desire, the technology stack, whatever we want. And similarly, the other components in the checkout, like payments and the address services and the other e-commerce component. So we are completely decoupling the individual components of the complete e-commerce system in the composable architecture. And the capability of the integration with composable services and the customization for the merchandisers and the vendors, right? And also it offers a high scalability and the performance within the code base, which is available out of the box as a kit. So uh, so this is the main role of the PWA kit, and the whole actually the PWA kit is more related to the uh, front end, uh, uh, the storefront, what you would say, the storefront layer, right?
Okay, 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 excellent. Foha, quickly, you would like to share thoughts on the same?
Yeah, the headless was basically focused, or you could say it's kind of a subset of composable where you're just focusing on one thing, which is decoupling the front end, separating it from the back end. And composable is more fixated on, being able to combine all of those modules, taking the best of, whatever you have in SFRA, best of what you have in composable, best of what you have in headless, and make one combination of it and give you that unified experience in one place, which is the PWA kit that's been provided as a template for that.
Okay, okay, excellent, excellent. Um, Second thing I would like to know now, because you guys are working on grounds with the customers on these composable migration projects. What kind of technical challenges you see, you experience, whether it's a data load or integrating with third party accelerators, or using the out of the box page designers. What kind of technical challenges you guys have come across till now, when we are into the phase of migrating customers?
Okay, so there are actually multiple challenges which you can come across when you are migrating from the existing implementation of Site Genesis or SFRA to the composable. So number one, I would say, is the integration complexity. So when you deal with the SFRA and the Site Genesis, you have a single set of APIs, and the B2C commerce script, there is a single code base, right? So the composable is composed of multiple APIs. So when and multiple data models as well. So in order to make it work seamlessly together, so you need a careful planning and a robust middleware in between. So I think integration complexity is there when you deal with the migration from site genesis to composable. And also then front end development, so you need new skills because storefront is based on the React app, and if you have existing team which is expert on SFRA and the site genesis based technology, which is a completely different technology, so you will need some new skills to learn about the front end development, right? Similarly, the content management, as you said, so the migration of the content is also sometimes very challenging when because on content management on the composable storefront, so you most of the time you use a third party CMS, where in the site genesis and the SFRA, most of the time the customer has the page designers, content assets, and slots. So this migration is also challenging. And then performance optimization is also one of the challenge. Uh, most of the time, it is considered that since we have a React-based PWA kit-based storefront, and everything is cached on the browser side in PWA technology, so it is uh, as far as load time concerned, it is optimized. But most of the time, if you do not take care of the APIs that are talking to the multiple systems, uh, if you do not care about that and consider that load time, so it may add up some performance impact on your overall implementation of the composable storefront, right?
Okay.
And yeah.
Yeah. No, I think this is good to know. So it means if you don't implement it in the right way, from the technical side, so
Right.
it may become an overhead instead of being more scalable and extendable.
Right. And similarly, the testing is also a challenge because you have multiple systems, and each of one has deployed on different across different premises on different clouds, right?
Yeah.
So the testing is also challenging. So you need to train that testing team as well. So how
Okay.
you will test this composable components end to end.
Okay. Excellent. Nate, the same question to you, Nate, but from the other side of the major aspect of the migration. One is the technical side, the other one is the business side. And I know that you speak with a lot of customers.
Yeah.
You meet with a lot of customers in events, conferences. How do you see, their experience, especially from the business side, the business challenges which they come across when migrating from SiteGen or SFRA to Composable?
I think it's interesting, and I like your definition of headless versus composable. I think headless being like the pure, we're just going to remove the head, and composable being sort of like the approach to the actual architecture. I think we used to have a situation, or as an industry, where people were going headless or composable for the sake of it because it sounded like a good idea, and so it was very technical, tech driven. And we're now shifting to where the business is asking more and more for composable. I think in addition to like customers being able to own their own front end and being the front end being portable, there's an element of I want to be able to use these specific tools or this combination of tools, and so I want to be able to compose my page. But I think also there are real benefits towards like site speed. And also we're finding that it's more accessible to developers. So we know that this particular space is very developer centric. We're not talking about Sales Cloud or Service Cloud. We're talking about Commerce Cloud here. And it's faster to upskill developers on a composable stack. It's allowing them to use their existing skills. I've even heard customers say, on my pod, we have Colin Tracy from Black Rifle Coffee. He came on and he talked about how he did it with a skeleton crew, because that was better. And it was faster for him to launch a site. So I think that there are real benefits towards like site speed, site performance, as well as just being able to innovate faster with composable. So there's tons of benefits to it.
Okay. Excellent. One other thing I think which we've been discussing even in the events, when I'm being the part of those events and the conferences, listening to speakers like James and Nathan, and there's been a lot of talk going, on in terms of the hybrid storefront model or a phased wise approach of migrating from B2C sites in SSR SFRA to composable. So how do you see that, Nate, from the hybrid storefront model, and based on your experience with customers, how customers are accepting this kind of approach, when it comes to hybrid storefront model?
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of that is historical. So for historical context, Salesforce bought Demandware in 2016, and then we actually acquired Mobify after. And so Mobify was the OG PWA kit, what we call the composable storefront now. So we have a huge customer base that's on SFRA today, which is our reference architecture, which is more than just a template. It has a store template, but it's so much more. It's connected to services, objects, processes, hosting, etc. And so we had a lot of customer demand to do more composable, so hence the acquisition with Mobify. But we needed to create a way for them to transition, because it's such a hard left turn to go from, okay, I'm on this all-in-one solution, now I want to be headless or composable. Oh, I have to redesign my whole website, right? There's you're already outlined so many technical challenges there. So we introduced this concept of hybrid composable and a hybrid storefront, which is, I believe is that's a relatively new concept. It's a Salesforce centric concept, but I mean, I'm happy to be challenged or corrected on that. And what it means is that you can have a bit of our all-in-one solution and a bit of our composable solution in a mixed sort of environment. So we're introducing this concept that composable could be a spectrum. So it's not one or the other. And that's going to make it easier, better for people to off ramp from an all-in-one and on ramp onto a composable in a graduated way. Maybe even never really be fully composable if that customer doesn't want to be fully composable, if that's not how they're starting out. And so that could mean having some pages in SFRA and having some pages on the composable storefront and still getting the benefit of the site speed and performance. For example, you might have your PDP on composable. And so that means that now you're moving from the page loading in its entirety, the components of the page loading, and that can actually make it faster. And so in addition to that, you can have your checkout on SFRA. So you could protect specific functionality that you don't want to mess with, especially at this holiday time. You don't want to say, change anything on your checkout. It's working fine. Conversions are fine, but you do want to modernize the PDP and the category landing pages, maybe the home pages. And so you may introduce a few composable elements. And so our architecture allows you to use both in a mixed environment. And that's what's great about, everything that you guys are doing, because you have a ton of hybrid composable projects and hybrid composable approaches. And so you really know how to execute that for customers. And so you can come in and be that trusted advisor, not only on how to technically execute it, but where and why, and helping with the business strategy. So we found that customer, the hybrid was really the missing piece for helping people adopt the composable technology.
Okay. Yeah. And Fuha, same question from you, because you've been leading a team of technical folks, and you guys have been working on this hybrid storefront model. So how Salesforce supports the technical side of it? Is there any cartridge which comes out of the box which connects this React base or the PWA kit storefront with SFRA or SiteGen? How it works with the technical side?
Yeah, definitely. They have the SLAS cartridge, and the main concept of the SLAS cartridge is bridging those sessions. So essentially, you have PWA kit running on a separate storefront, and you'd have your SFR site Genesis on a separate storefront. But with that cartridge, it gives you that seamless experience where the user can transition to and from both sites and not feel that difference. So it bridges sessions, it exchanges data, and it seems pretty much seamless on the user's end. That's provided by Salesforce.
Okay, excellent. I remember, when Salesforce acquired Mobify, this kind of support at that time was not there. I remember working for one project where the customer was actually migrating or having their catalog pages on SiteGen and their checkout on SFRA, and they were managing this session between SiteGen and SFRA manually, and there were a lot of issues which we were experiencing. And when we approached Salesforce right away said that it's not a recommended approach. But now, when it comes, to this composable commerce, where we have these out of the box cartridges support, I think it makes a really easy for customers to adapt this, to accept this model, right? Because Salesforce has given it as part of the product. Great.
On that note, Lala, like I find
Yeah.
that and I don't like speak on behalf of Salesforce, but like my opinions are my own, but like my point of view is that customers drive what ends up being made and being adopted. And so what's interesting about the offerings that we have and the offerings that were created is really customer driven. Customers are innovating, they're using it, they're demanding these services, and eventually because of that, they are prioritized and they're made and they're delivered. And so it's excellent to hear that has been evolving from your perspective.
Exactly. Foha and Iftikhar, one more question to you guys. Foha, you've been working on grounds, and there's a term which has been very, or mostly used when it comes to hosting this React-based storefront, that is managed runtime. So, can you please tell us about this managed runtime and how this fits within this composable model? What features it brings on the table when it comes to B2C composable storefront?
Yeah, definitely. So your managed runtime is basically a cloud supported server. It's basically hosting your site for you. It's doing all of those memory allocations for you. You don't have to worry about anything. You just take your code, you deploy it on MRT, and it basically picks it up from there and handles it on its end. Now, the power of MRT itself, besides just hosting your site, the other things that it does is it controls the routing. It has its own CDN as well, which basically it uses to cache some information with itself, which increases, the performance of your site. It's going to keep some things with itself, so you don't have to make a full server call. You can just get some things from MRT directly. So it's a very, you could say, kind of an intelligent server that's deploying, hosting your code in real time. It's managing and allocating your memory. It's managing all of your assets, your routes, everything, and it's doing a great job at it by reducing the speed and increasing the performance overall.
Okay, great. Iftikhar, your thoughts on this managed runtime?
I think Foha has covered pretty much, but I would say that managed runtime is provide the deployment infrastructure where it manages different things internally, like ECDN, SCEO things, and the caching mechanism, all that. So it is an infrastructure for deploying the front end application on the Salesforce managed servers.
Okay, great. I mean, the best part is that customers may not have to spend anything extra to host their composable storefront. I mean, as soon as they get the Salesforce B2C composable commerce product as part of the package license, they get this with no additional cost, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have one instance where you've got, you can separate the environments there and create, your production instance, your staging instance, your development, where your developers are using at the same time. You don't have to maintain those different instances like we used to before.
Exactly.
So that's the great point that comes with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nate, coming back to you now, there's again one more topic which is being talked about, and I remember I also raised this question, as part of one of the events there. When it comes to managing the cost of this composable model, right? When let's say any customers moves from Site Genesis or SFRA to composable, now on Site Genesis and SFRA they are managing one team. Iftikhar talked about different skill set, right, required. How do you see that aspect of the cost impacting once customer moves from SiteGen or SFRA to composable, and then whether the cost of the ownership increases, or what do you think it goes down?
That's a great question. I mean, and I'm not going to dive too much, I think, into the nitty gritty of the cost. I'm personally learning a lot from this conversation. So thank you guys for reviewing all the technical ins and outs. I think look, it always comes down to ROI, right? So like, what are you getting out of the system? Why are you doing it? Why are you doing any changes? That always has to be grounded in a business reason. So it's not really about the cost. It's more overall about the ROI, the KPIs, and what you're sort of getting out of it. I know we have seen that there's definitely a strong need. The more composable you go, the more of a BFF system that you need, which is like a back end for front end. So that will be like one of our partners. I think you guys are familiar with Consia, that can certainly, I think, decrease implementation costs, decrease launch timelines, and ongoing maintenance, just being able to manage your front end. I think that there's somewhat of a benefit in terms of sometimes a templatized approach can get in the way of customizations. So the more customizations you have, the more the template sort of holds you back and the longer it takes to change things in the front end. And so you can have a reduced sort of development or time from ideation to publish. So there's certainly cost reduction benefits there, but that's only like one piece of the pie when you're taking a look at everything. And certainly, I think if you take a look, and I think this was going to be one of the other questions that I think you may be asking here, but if you take a look at what we have for composable customers today and some of the other features, it really allows people to port, like we're really like a platform, right? So you have all of the exact same APIs, access to the exact same objects in a different sort of front end that gives you more flexibility. So that flexibility alone could drive sort of new innovation, new improvements that are going to add to the business and drive revenue. People can stand up sites that are fully composable for like a pop-up experience or like specific brand or a new region. So it may help people expand internationally faster, or expand into new places faster, and test things more. So there are tons of business benefits that, without looking just at the cost, would overall drive value for the customers.
Great, Nate. I think based on our experience, we've been working right now with couple of customers. They've been more into the product level. Like they want to stick with Page Designer, they want to stick with Einstein Search, so that they don't have to pay additional cost to any third party CMS or search providers. Still keeping or kicking off their journey on Composable, right? So that is also one of the plus which Salesforce comes as part of the product, that Composable B2C commerce is offering Page Designer as well as the search, Einstein Search, out of the box. Okay, now you were there in the conference Dreamforce, a month back, and I would say that it was actually not Dreamforce; it was Agentforce this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
yeah.
Yeah, I think I know what your question is going to be, which is like, what does that mean for composable commerce? And I think it's important for us to contextualize, because it's such a huge shift here at Salesforce, is this concept of releasing Agentforce and having Agentforce work for us. It's really going to affect every part of the business, every part and product at Salesforce. It's really a general things that we have to update is so voluminous. And so Agentforce has that capacity to be just like generally available to all Salesforce employees from and improve merchant productivity, but also customers can engage with it and obtain a ChatGPT-esque experience. We know that people are now going to ChatGPT to do product comparisons, product recommendations, product search, finding information about products. And so if you are allowing ChatGPT to drive the narrative, then ChatGPT is going to introduce competitive recommendations, right? So what we're doing is saying like, okay, you could have that same experience on your site. So instead of you trying to find the best pair of running shoes on ChatGPT and having it introduce like ASICs and New Balance and Saucony, you could go to like a site like ASICs directly and have it do that point of comparison to stay within the brand. And so Agentforce is huge. So even as you're considering composable commerce or implementing composable commerce, consider adding Agentforce to that being that interaction layer, giving that ChatGPT-esque experience to customers to be able to have product recommendations and product analyses and be able to surface content more easily for customers. And we know Agentforce is API driven. It can be displayed on any endpoint. And so it's really a utility that's available for everybody. So highly recommend people to take a look at that, consider that, implement that moving forward, because we're now entering in a phase where people who are not adopting AI may fall behind those brands and companies that are adopting AI heavily. And I know you guys are AI experts experts. That's what I learned from the Ontario AI Summit. So I can't
Yeah.
think of anybody better guiding people than yourselves with all the experience and information that you have.
Yeah, great. Um, Nate, I think we were having last week we were having lunch and lunch session at our office, and I think there was a use case which I can relate to agent force or the AI agents. I think I love the logo which Salesforce introduced, uh, that the humans and the AI agent can work together to drive success, right? I mean that's what Salesforce presented this year in Dreamforce, and we recently deployed one of the solutions there, for one of the universities and colleges, I think a couple of them in Chicago, where we created a teaching assistant. It was not on the Salesforce, but I could relate when my team was demoing, our AI team was demoing. I can relate it to the agent force in a way that they call it teaching assistant, but when I reuse that term in the Salesforce terminology, I can call it as a teaching agent, like we have buyer's agent, merchant agents, right?
Correct.
So that
Correct.
that teaching assistant or that teaching agent, what it can do is, let's say if somebody missed the lecture, if somebody missed the session, or somebody has any query, which merchant agent, health agent, financial agent, anything you can call it based on what kind of business segment you are in, right?
This is an
Um,
excellent point.
yeah,
I think you're hitting on something that's really interesting. I think there's almost like two announcements like that have gone on. One is the general availability of the Agentforce platform, right? Then the other announcement is like the applications to each cloud are different, and each cloud had its own different application. So like our AI product has always really been about packaging, right? I think one of the challenges with we saw this at the Ontario AI Summit is we talked about LLMs. Well, what should I be doing? What should I be using? What should my AI strategy be? Is really the question customers are asking. And so a lot of the stuff we've done is saying, okay, don't worry about what you should be doing. Here's what it does, and here are the business results it gives you, and here's how you can implement it. You could do that today. So a lot of the Agentforce per cloud packaging is really like, go ahead, use this, have it drive this result. You can do that today. But there's also like a platform where you can create any type of agent. So we don't have to be limited to a service agent or a marketing agent or a commerce agent. To your point, you created a great idea here, teaching agent. You can have a healthcare agent. You can have a sort of any type of agent that you want. And I think sometimes the market uses the word assistant. That's not unusual. So this concept of a personal assistant is sort of, I would say, very close to our idea of an agent. In our use case, it's a little bit more autonomous, a little bit more self-serving. But I think that's what's exciting is that people can start taking that and creating all different kinds of
yeah,
use cases. And so you can actually take the agent and organize it by topics. And so you can have it be experienced or guided through a certain topic. And then on top of that, you're getting the benefit of the trust and security layer of the platform and the fact that we have this very minute profile and field management that will allow you to give that agent specifically just the information that it needs. And this is really, really key because, like, let's say you're in a highly regulated industry like healthcare, you want to be able to obfuscate certain PII, personal identifiable information, and not have that agent run on that, use that, and not be like, "Hi, I know you have cancer. Here's my recommendation for the next product that you should. Here's some wigs that you should be wearing." Like that's highly inappropriate. So we want to make sure that we are not just allowing you to use and manage these agents, but in an enterprise business setting, being able to put parameters about what it's allowed to do, what it's allowed to say, and prevent hallucinations, right? Because we know that if we give it all the data, it'll find nonsense correlations, right? A great example, I was talking to one of our AI researchers, Fatima, and she mentioned, you want to maybe not have it do an analysis based on gender because you don't want it to find correlations based on gender. And so like if you're hiring or you're doing some sort of recruiting agent, right? You might have a lot of resumes, but you want to obfuscate the name because what if you happen to your company to have a lot of Mark Smiths? You don't want to say, "Hey, here's a great candidate for you. His name is Mark Smith," right? So you want to prevent hallucinations. And so the way that you do that is that you have to manage and control the information the agent gets you. And this
yeah,
is where the AI with the human is really, really the matching pair because the human can discern, "Hey, that's a hallucination," or "If you are trained on this particular data, that's not going to be an appropriate result." And so we can give you those parameters and give you that trust and security layer to be able to create an agent that will work for your organization.
exactly. And I think that's where we call them as guardrails, right?
Exactly.
To control that access. So,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I think that's excellent. Excellent. I have last one question for all three of you. I'll give you 1 minute each. So tell me from your side. I mean, Nate, from your side, I would like to know more kind of features, new features which are getting introduced by Salesforce on Composable side, and how
Yeah.
do you see the future of Composable, overall within the e-commerce?
This is where I mentioned the forward-looking statement and say like, hey, I may mention some things that are not real. Please do not buy your purchase, make your purchasing decisions based on that. So I don't have the full roadmap, but I'll tell you sort of what has been made so far. And I think where we should be thinking, and what customers are asking for. So about generative page designer, which is very fascinating. So we talked about the importance of page designer, how some people might not want a full-fledged CMS, but they just need somewhere to build their layout. And we have page designer for Composable, and we have generative page designer, meaning that you can use prompts to define UI. We find our third-party ISV partners, independent software vendor partners like Builder, are doing basically you take a Figma and it creates the UI code for you. We also know that SI partners, systems integrator partners like yourselves and others are looking at it to create the code, to generate the code, to launch the Composable site faster. And so I see a future in which the template approach is less important and the template approach actually holds us back, which is kind of fascinating thing to consider. Is what if we are just telling it what it should look like? What if we're using natural language? Then we don't have to go and click and try to make sure it's the right layout. And so the whole template idea may go away, and we may just move to interacting solely with agents. And that can improve not only the system speed and innovation, but it can be more exact in terms of what we can execute.
Excellent. So it means you see more coming towards an interactive AI instead of
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine if you had a composable agent, right? An agent that would be like, get me this API or make me this page or give me a new checkout experience. And the agent would be like, sure, yeah. And we'll do that in a composable way. And this is where like BFFs like Concea come into play, are very important to be that interaction layer.
Yeah, absolutely. Iftikhar, your thoughts?
So regarding the roadmap, so I'm not up to date related to that, and but I desire few of the features in the managed runtime, like managing different sites as we do from the business manager, more control over the different site structures, and the configurations of different sites, and the same as Nat said. The content management tool for converting existing page designer components and slots, assets into the client side component. For example, I input existing page designer component and it converted client side component of the React.js. I just run npm install it and it just install the component on the client side, something like this. I'm just thinking of such kind of feature that should be there. Yeah.
No, I think we'll have it. I mean, the way we are progressing, I think you will see those features coming. For your thoughts?
My thoughts are a lot less exciting. They're more like the things that, as a developer, I was really excited about. The first would be the logs being centralized in the managed runtime, because we've been having some trouble from the development perspective, just kind of all over the place. So we're looking forward to getting that. I do see it on the roadmap. So looking forward to that, as well as there are some improvements for more powerful APIs, caching improvements, all of this stuff from a developer's perspective that would make our work a lot easier, and there would be a lot of performance impact on that as well. And as well as some, social passwordless logins, BOPIS coming onto Composable, order on behalf of. So these are things that kind of stood out for me. Again, a lot less exciting, but for a developer, these are the key points that we look forward to.
I think it's interesting how like you guys are like, give me logs and manage runtime, and I'm like, I want to speak to it and have it build everything for me. I think your roadmap items are probably more near future, and I'll definitely Slack me those ideas. I will share that with our development team, and then in 10 years we'll be where I'd like to be. So
Yeah, I think, see, as I said, that we are working with a couple of customers, and this feature, as this feature was announced as part of the Dreamforce, that from the Composable or from Salesforce B2C Commerce, you can actually stream the logs to third-party applications like Grafana or Splunk or Sumo Logic and New Relic, and we right away actually got it to show it to the customer. So see, these are the features which actually customers can then and there apply within their Salesforce space, right? Whether it's on Composable or even on SFI. But the point is, if these features are keep on coming, I think customers would right away take these features because they would add great value, to the existing space.
Yep.
Anyways, thank you guys. Net, Iftikhar, for
Thank you.
joining this session and giving all these insights on composable commerce. And we'll look forward connecting with all of you again in our upcoming episodes.
Thanks
Thank you
for
so
having
much.
us, Madhav.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.